he wasn't nearly fast enough. The sound of collisions shook the air around the compound only seconds after he left, and Karl mentally checked in on Kara. She had used greater beast form and behemoth to turn her into a 6-meter-tall badger, now larger in every dimension than her wrath demon opponent, who was buffed up by his new ring. The battle was shaping up to be an epic one, as the arena was shaking with the barriers up, and they hadn't even gotten serious yet. Kara had fully buffed herself for this fight. She had even used haste, brutality, and war beast to fully armor and enhance herself, though the armor was hidden under the hide of her badger form. Even with all that, Ameldor was still stronger than she was now that he had such a huge buff to his stats, and Kara was not going to win by overwhelming force. But they had also agreed not to use weapons or offensive skills, only their own claws and buffs. "Are you not going to go watch the fight?" one of the clerks asked quietly as Karl began to work on the swords for the paladins. "Nope, you can go though. Call it a paid break, as long as you're back in 15 minutes. I won't tell anyone." The clerk looked longingly at the door, then nodded. "It's not neglecting my duties. Nobody will be here for alchemy herbs until after the fight. If we can hear it from here, then half the clan knows that something is going on." "Precisely. Go have fun." The last of the staff members who stayed in the front left, and Karl started to draw on the swords with a paint pen. It was better to work when there was nobody around, but after only a few seconds, he saw bunnies poking their heads out from the back room. Today had been slow for actual customers, and they were missing the snacks that Karl had handed out so freely yesterday. No customers, so everyone is on break. "Here, take these and pass them around. They're a failed batch, so I can't vouch for the taste," Karl warned. They even had a failed batch label on them, but as to why they had failed, he couldn't tell. If they were actually toxic, Lotus presumably would not have put them into storage in the tiny world's cupboards. It had been enchanted with a preservation spell by Lotus, using nature magic to keep the food fresh without freezing it. "You know, you're pretty all right," the bunny whispered as she returned to the others. "You don't have to be afraid to talk around me. If there is nobody else here, we're not in public. That's the rule, right? Mortals don't speak in public." The bunny nodded. "Nobody wants to hear what we have to say anyhow, so it works out fine. But you're different. Friendly, but not creepy. Maybe because you have a fox wife." "I agree. Some of these immortals need to get laid more often." The bunny giggled and held up the tray of cupcakes. "Thank you for this. We've made great progress this week, just using the resources that you've provided. Of course, I will be sure to keep sending them even after my time at the counter is over. Miss Remy will be here all the time, and she can deliver them as well." "The snake is scary." Karl smiled. "She's not going to eat anyone. She's not big enough to, anyhow. But you never know what she will make you drink. She's got a very frightening, mad scientist vibe. She hasn't even talked to her yet, and she has Remy pegged." Hawk joked. The Naga couldn't even deny it. The bunnies were perfect test subjects. They weren't allowed to say no. Not that she intended to hurt them. Quite the opposite, really. But nobody trusted her new concoctions, and it was not easy to get people to test them out if they didn't come from one of the established recipes that the elders could vouch for. It was horribly limiting, even if Elder Socrate was glad to help her learn and refine her new techniques. What good was learning new things if nobody was going to use them? Karl finished setting up the runes on the first sword, then made a couple of alterations that would increase the output, while allowing the sword to channel its own energy for the consecrated ground effect. Having that effect active at will, without cost to the user, would be perfect for the paladins. They had enough to worry about on their own, and they didn't need a blade that caused them even more mental stress and mana use. The blade glowed with bright white holy light as Karl finished it, so he quickly put it in storage before it attracted attention. Well, more attention because there were a half-dozen bunnies watching at the door to the back room, enraptured by his skills. Then, he started work on the second one, which went much more smoothly without the need to make alterations. That would turn them into a matched pair, and they were designed to grow with their user, so they would be with the paladins for a very long time, assuming nothing drastic happened to their wielders. Perhaps that was the reason that so much was lost. The immortals regularly fought and killed each other, so whatever was in their inventory would vanish with their final death. They didn't wear most of their valuables or keep them in a storage item unless their inventory was full. So, every death caused an unknown number of valuable relics to be lost forever. It was a tragedy for the overall power level of the immortal worlds, but in a way it really was a self-regulating system. The immortals weren't sitting on mountains of loot because so much of it vanished with every kill. That kept power scaling from getting out of hand, and kept people with eternal lifespans interested in doing the things near home, instead of getting bored after collecting all the good stuff and going out to cause trouble for others. Perhaps the gods knew what they were doing when they designed the system? The battle between Ameldor and Kara dragged on so long that the staff from the alchemy hall was back before it ended, unwilling to push their luck and extend their break any further past the half-hour mark. They had already taken lunch, and their pay would be docked for the extra time that they were gone. Fortunately, there still weren't any people in the hall, though the bunnies were lingering by the door, so the staff suspected that Karl had gotten a rush while they were gone. He was good at the job, no matter why he was doing it. So, they weren't too concerned. They were more envious that the fluffy assistants seemed so taken with him. How much good luck could one man have? There was a male bunny at the door, looking out hesitantly to make sure that they hadn't missed any customer orders. Mona had always wanted to pet those fluffy black ears, but he was a master at vanishing after he had dropped off the orders. Karl watched her gaze and smiled. Is there a particular reason that the bunnies are chosen to do all these behind-the-scenes tasks? There are so many of them in the clan, like someone has a particular taste. Mona froze as the unexpected question short-circuited her brain. Did Karl know nothing about the bunnies? It's nearly impossible to reach immortality for their species. You see, they follow a fertility god, whose dominion is the mortal realm. They have many children, grow old and die. The natural way for mortals. Because of their goddess's nature, the immortal realm will pull them up to the totem or mythic realm at the very most. Often, they don't even get halfway up the mortal realm rankings before they grow old. But they're just too adorable for anyone to want to get rid of them. So they have become a somewhat permanent fixture here in the New Home Merchant clan. At first, it started as you expected. Someone abducted 100 bunny girls for unsavory purposes. Then, he was killed, and his bunny girl harem was taken by one of the elders here. The elder quickly realized his mistake, as all that they want is to be helpful and live family lives. They get horribly depressed if you keep them in a harem compound away from mates and children. So, he made them servants for the clan, and brought in a few male bunnies. That was maybe 1,000 years ago. Now, we've got enough bunnies that they run all the behind-the-scenes operations within the clan. They don't get enough recognition for their contributions. There isn't anything that they're not doing to keep the clan running. The only positions they don't hold are the senior ones. The chefs who finish the dishes with mystic cooking are all immortals, but the line cooks and prep workers, the majority of the gardeners, the delivery runners, the supply clerks, even the laundry service. It's all bunnies. So, if it's not public interactions, it's them. I get it now. And I also understand how appealing fluffy ears can be. However, that particular bit of fluff is off limits. He's married. Karl joked with a pointed look at the man standing by the door. Mona looked offended. What sort of thing are you thinking of me? You know I have a foxskin wife, right? The other staff members giggled. If anyone understood Mona's obsession with cute and fluffy ears, it was definitely Karl. Why don't I find you an available young man? I hear that there is a symbiotic growth technique in the immortal world which has become quite popular. Mona clapped her hand over his mouth. That's not the sort of thing that you speak of in public. Oh, so it's something naughty. I should have known that it would be a lewd technique. The immortals go all out when they think of new and fun ways to grow their powers. I had originally thought that it was like a short-term version of the soul bond that I share with Dana. Did your old world not have anything like it? I mean, not for power growth purposes. But we had developed quite a few lewd techniques. How do you think I got such a lovely wife? You are a menace to society. I've been told that many times in the past, yes. Fortunately, I have Kara to keep everyone's expectations in check. Their joking was cut short when the elder who had just commissioned the two blades rushed in with a pair of burly wrath demon paladins. Do you have the weapons ready yet? I know you said tomorrow night, but I also know how long it actually takes a runecrafter if they don't have to make a new plan for the layout. You're in a hurry, I see. Might I ask why? Jin's group was ambushed on the way back from their excursion. They're currently trapped in a clearing and don't have the power to defeat the sect. Attacking them. I can't go, as an elder. It would just lead to a fight with their sect's elders. So there are some rules. Common courtesy. We don't interfere with fights between the younger generation, unless it's an outstanding grudge or the deliberate targeting of a personal disciple. Now, do you have the weapons? I do, but I'm going with you. Give me 30 seconds to collect my... Oh, there she is. Elder, these are Ray and Dana. Kara is on her way over now that the fight with Ameldor has completed for the day. We will all go assist. You don't have your immortal spirit completely formed. The Elder warned. Don't worry too much about that. My system just needs a little motivation to get growing. Plus, what are the chances I will lose a fight under the Ascended? Rank. The two paladins shrugged. Send the almost human and the fox. They'll add numbers to our response, and we won't have to search for extra members. I'm sure that they have enough skills hidden that they can hold their own. Fine. I will open the portal now. It's 1 kilometer east to the location where our group is pinned down. Good luck. Ray smiled at the Elder. What are the rules on bringing back trophies? Leave the bodies for their clan to collect if they can be resurrected. If they can't, you can keep them. That was excellent news. The portal opened, and Karl's group followed the pair of Wrath Demon Paladins through. That was a strange thing to think, much less hear someone say out loud. However, they really were paladins by class, even if their skills seemed to lean heavily toward fire and destruction. It must be a peculiarity of the local system. The species couldn't get the class at all on Karl's homeworld. Stay behind us while we greet them. Once we have joined the fight, you join as well. It's a formality to keep the elders from getting involved. If they know that we're part of the same group, they have no business stopping us. Running through the woods with Hawk on his shoulder and Kara right behind him, Karl shifted left of the group, while Dana moved right. That put them in a fan-shaped position behind the enemies, who were surrounding Alicia, the half-elemental berserker, and Jean, who looked much worse for wear. Just turn it over, and we let you live. Don't be stupid. It's too valuable to be lost entirely. The man was demanding. Jean smiled at him. I will scour it in the holy fire of the afterlife before I hand it over. As you wish. That was the paladin's cue, and the two demons roared, while Karl and Dana both called for support. Karl called Dark Elven High Priestesses as his epic golems, while Dana called Dark Elven Kings, who were fighters instead of healers. Then, Karl and Ray both called on Spectral Knights, and a small army of skeleton warriors for backup using undead minions. Karl had to try not to laugh as he realized that all his skeleton warriors were skeletal hounds with metal teeth. That wasn't a normal use of the spell, he assumed. But he also hadn't specified. You think that you can rescue your friends from us? Well, then you can die with them. The arrogant young man in vibrant yellow robes declared with a grand gesture for his underlings to attack. There were 50 of them, to the 2 surviving members of the other group, and the 6 members of the rescue team. The Elder must have had great confidence in the paladins. Or, he didn't realize that nearly everyone in the other group was dead already. That seemed more likely. Karl sent the priestesses to bring back who they could with a mass resurrection, spell, and some healing. That was the primary reason for the choice. That, and the fact that they got along well with Ray's spider golems, who leapt over the battle with the priestesses on their back to deliver them to the necessary location. A large group of agile immortals wielding short twin blades came for Karl, giving him only a split second to see their interface. All the names were yellow, so rogue-type classes, he assumed, that he could deal with. Warbeast shifted Karl into a massive, armored world dragon that stopped the attackers for a split second, long enough that the undead had a chance to charge into combat. Dana had 4 clones of herself active, along with the pair of Elven Kings, and they were quickly driving the attackers back, giving themselves room to reach the survivors, while Ray filled the gaps behind them with her army. You've had your chance to run. Make peace with your god. Karl taunted the attackers, right before he unleashed the breath of a world dragon on them, laced with randomize. He had no clue what was going to happen, but Kara was absolutely certain that it was going to be entertaining. Barriers flashed into existence, and weapons shattered as the corrosive effects of the breath weapon hit the attackers. Then, the plant life around them began to grow, and horror overtook their expressions. Frantically, they threw themselves out of the area of effect, preferring to face the undead. Oh, that is good. We only got one, but it's enough. Kara laughed. The stricken immortal had been too slow to get his barriers up, and his body was currently undergoing a violent transformation into what appeared to be a half-dozen species at the same time. Mutually incompatible species. Seconds later, the effect ended. But what was left could not be called a human corpse. There was nothing left of the original form, only a mass of twisted flesh and extra limbs in improbable locations. That was not what had caught Kara's attention, though. In the middle of the battlefield, growing tall and proud, was a vibrant white chaos lily, an immortal rank flower, and an alchemy reagent of incredible potency. She had heard Remy talking about it with the elder while they were discussing rare potions, and now Karl's breath weapon had given her a chance to obtain it. The 6-meter-tall form of a war beast, enhanced chaos badger charged through the battle, ignoring the blades that bounced off the eternal lightning barrier over her hide. She grabbed the flower into her space and mentally planted it, hoping that she hadn't injured the roots with her haphazard transplantation. Then, she turned to face the enemy. 5 men turned to face her as the badger unwittingly put herself between them and Alicia. Kara smirked at them, her scarred face making it much more frightening, then laughed as Karl's claws tore the arms off one of them from behind, before the rest of the body was stomped upon and pulverized using the massive weight of an immortal world dragon and crushing blow. A barrage of chaos blasts flew from Kara toward her enemies, who found themselves trapped between an impossibly large dragon and a feral badger. Then, the flaming meteor strike started as Hawk got into position to control the battlefield from above. No words were exchanged as the battle turned into a slaughter, with the attackers forced into a smaller defensive circle, unable to do anything but defend as their attacks proved mostly ineffective against these new combatants. Even the paladins were gloating, as Karl's eternal lightning kept the few strikes that made it past their defenses from causing actual injury, and the consecrated ground effect from their new blades constantly damaged the enemies. They really had picked the perfect companions for this fight. The surviving sect members exchanged glances, then activated various defensive items that teleported them away, leaving nothing to fight, and a very disappointed Ray, who only saw one body that couldn't be resurrected, and Karl had already turned it into a modern art exhibition. "How is everyone?" Karl asked as he transformed back to human. Well, as human as he got. That beard was getting out of control, and he noticed that his fingernails were now shiny black and as hard as blades. "We've lost at least 20 young immortals. Soul damage too severe for a resurrection. I don't know about the others." Jean replied in a tired voice as he lay on the ground, utterly spent. Karl nodded. "I will call out a specialist. Or is Brother Chin here somewhere?" "Brother Chin is dead." Karl looked around in the tiny world and settled on Lotus. She was the only one he knew for certain could do the job. "What's up, boss?" "Oh, this isn't good." The little cleric immediately transformed into Tree of Life form and rustled her branches in concern as the dead failed to raise. "They've taken soul damage. Resurrection isn't going to work. But you have rebirth, don't you? To start them over in a new body." Lotus branches wobbled as she nodded. "Yes, but they will be children. There isn't enough soul left for it to resurrect as anything immortal rank. Do it. Better children than dead." Jean and Alicia watched in awe as the soul damaged began to vanish, their bodies turning to pure energy before reappearing under the branches of the healing tree as small children. Compared to the soul energy of an immortal, these royal and monarch-ranked children were only a fraction of a percent as strong. But that was all that was lingering around those who could not be resurrected by the immortal rank dark elven priestesses. The process went on for half an hour, with Karl keeping implacable and a mana pylon active so that Lotus didn't exhaust herself with the effort. That's everyone with any lingering soul. 9 out of 22. She was clearly dejected by the failure. But if the soul was entirely destroyed, you couldn't expect them to be reborn. That was the truly cruel nature of the immortal worlds. Lotus transformed back and slumped into the grass next to Alicia. Then, her eyes went wide, and she rolled over to snuggle up next to the elemental. "Oh, so warm. This is nice. If only you were furry," she mumbled before promptly falling asleep. Karl shrugged at the woman's confused expression. "Just let her rest. She's earned it. I will explain later." In this world, a human of Lotus power level was basically trash tier. If it wasn't for her extremely rare skills, her actions would have been seen as something akin to having a stranger's dog just jump on your lap. The elemental didn't know where Karl had gotten her from, though she suspected that she was from a mortal world. The rebirth spell wasn't one that she was familiar with, but she knew the concept. Rebuild the soul from scraps and put it into a body that was suitable to the remaining power. A second chance at life that came at the cost of your immortal lifetime of achievements. Some particularly paranoid sorts would actually set up necromantic magic of the same sort, where they trapped a portion of their soul and created an automatic array to have it recreate them if the rest of their soul was destroyed. It also gave them a better link to the world, so they could be resurrected a much longer time after they had died. Creepy, but effective. We need to get moving. Their elders of that sect are going to be here soon to get the bodies. They will have felt the deaths, and we need to be somewhere that is not here, just in case someone's personal disciple is among the dead. Not intervening in the fight definitely wasn't going to stop them from wiping out the whole group if someone tried to stop them from rescuing their protege. Or worse, if Soul Siphon had killed them permanently. The Blade of Champions was happy to take the vital energy of immortals and mortals alike. So, there were definitely going to be some who were difficult to resurrect. I will move Lotus back to her own bed, and we can go. It's better that I don't bring her to the clan as a mortal. She can come visit when she reaches immortality. She's still young and from a mortal world, but she will get there. Alicia smiled as she had an epiphany. She's a green dragon cleric, isn't she? The way that she immediately gravitated to the warm spot to nap, she has to be. A green dragon cleric. Right in one. The elemental giggled. Green dragon clerics are always funny. Absolutely unhinged, even when they're not stoned out of their minds. You haven't lived until you have tried their unique blend of relaxing incense. There is nothing quite like it. Karl nodded. The incense isn't quite as potent as their so-called meditation-inducing cigarettes, but it's not bad. It actually keeps the house smelling rather fresh. Then he opened a portal back to the clan, located directly in front of the Alchemy Hall steps. Why are we going to the Alchemy Hall? Alicia whispered. Because I don't know where the Healer's Hall is. I have enough healing and regeneration magic of my own that I haven't seen a need to visit it. The elemental rolled her eyes, but before they could go anywhere, a group of elders and white-robed healers were rushing over. They had been informed that the group was carrying bodies back and intended to save as many as possible, not realizing that Karl's group had already done most of what they would be able to. Clear the way, clear the way. Wait, why are there children? Is that Brother Chin? Why is he tiny? The white dragon in question flapped up to Karl's shoulder so he could answer without looking up. Soul damage. But Karl found a green dragon cleric to cast rebirth. Now, I am small again. Does that mean I get to go to school? The other healer laughed. And terrorize the other children with your demands for perfection? I think not. Brother Chin laughed, a squeaky noise from a half-meter-long dragon whelp. But it will be glorious. Think how much more motivated they will be when they've got an outperforming peer to challenge them. You dare call yourself their peer? You're nearly 200 years old. Scan me. That's not what my body age says. The healer looked to Karl for assistance, but he just shrugged. I don't see the issue here. I've got a baby dragon. Chin laughed hysterically, and a wave of magic that felt like divine amusement rumbled through the clouds, making everyone who was caught by surprise put up defensive barriers. What did you do? The gods rarely notice anything we do, but that's the second time since you arrived that they have responded to your actions. Karl shrugged. Well, I am an avatar of the world dragon. That makes me a bit closer to the gods than most, right? The healer looked skeptical. Karl wasn't even a cleric. How strong could his faith be? Karl felt a poke on his back, and a young man in black robes handed him a note. You know, I don't even have to open this to know what it says. Karl joked. Really? Yep. See, it says that Wait, I thought that this was a message from the Black Dragon's avatar. Never mind, carry on. The boy ran off while Karl read through the letter. It seems that the elders have awarded us clan credits for the rescue. That was faster than expected. 50 points, split evenly between the 4 members of the rescue team, for managing to recover so many of the immortals from a dire situation without provoking an ongoing conflict. Apparently, the other sect's elders have already been to the battlefield and have collected their dead. Karl explained to everyone watching. 12.5 each? That's quite the reward. Not that you haven't earned it. Most of these rescue missions are 3 to 5 credits per person, and that's already a fairly significant sum to trade for necessities. One of the young immortals they had resurrected noted. Jean nodded. The goods that we got from the mission, other than the one that got us ambushed, sell for an average of about 2 credits per person. What did you even find that provoked that sort of response, anyhow? Ironically, nothing even as good as what Kara found when you came to rescue us. She is the one that plucked the Chaos Lily, right? It didn't go to one of the dead immortals from that sect? She got it. Karl agreed, with a motion for the dragon to continue. We got a fire lotus, another elemental flower used in alchemical creations. It sells to the clan for 50 credits, so it's certainly a valuable resource. But don't make the mistake of thinking that they would have actually let us leave if we turned it over. We would just die poor. That's the natural order of things. The dead don't need their loot. I'm glad that you made it through. Now, I wonder if there were casualties that I might have known? I assume that there will be funerals to attend. Jean nodded. They will do a group funeral for those who didn't have enough soul energy left to be resurrected or reborn. Some of the others might be upset about the childish rebirth, but in a way that's actually better than being reborn in a full-sized body with a damaged soul. It can take centuries to recover a damaged soul in an adult body. But in the body of a child, it will naturally improve as you grow up. The trade-off is that the body doesn't hold your old power level, so you have to start all over and not just repair the soul. Everyone will gather for the funeral ceremony at midnight tonight if you wish to attend. However, I think that the ones you have met are actually all alive. Nyan is over there, as she was resurrected normally by the elves. Jeff was reborn, I think, and Brother Chin is on your shoulder. Where is Argoth? Dana asked, referring to the werewolf warrior who was their tank. Not with us. He was delayed in the trial ground, so he wasn't involved in the incident and may still be fine. The elders have gone looking for him. Dana let out a sigh of relief. At least they hadn't lost anyone familiar this time. Though that was only because they didn't know more than a half-dozen of the nearly 50 members of the group. Dana went to check on Nyan, who didn't seem like the sort who would do well with this sort of trauma, only to find the cat girl cradling something in her arms, hidden under her coat. Nyan hissed at her as she approached, and Dana growled back, which seemed to snap Nyan out of her protective instincts. Sorry, I got distracted, feeling all maternal. One of the reborn was a feline beastkin. Nyan shook her head and opened her coat to reveal a small blue divine lightning dragon, barely more than hatchling-sized. Jeff was sleeping in the soft cloth, and she quickly closed the wrap before the light woke him up. If he had regressed that much, it was an extremely close call for him during the battle. Only the barest scrap of his soul had survived the attack and lingered on his body. Well, he might be cranky if we wake him up, but I'm not going to steal your baby dragon from you. It looks like Karl has gained one as well. Nyan looked up and giggled. Oh, Brother Chin is going to be insufferable now that he's tiny. He was a healing prodigy as an actual child, and now that he has a second chance to learn skills and rebuild his power, he will be even faster. Dana winked at her. Just wait. I have a plan. Now that they're starting from nothing again, we can influence the system to give them an improved class. We can make a bigger, better Jeff and an even more proud Chin. Wait, you have a way to influence class selections? Nyan asked, catching the attention of everyone nearby. Of course, there is a trick to it. If you have certain skills when it comes to the breakpoints where you want to advance, you just need an opportunity that will let you advance. For dragons, they should just have to go to an advancement trial in a dragon god temple to get a chance to upgrade their class. Just go to an advancement trial at the temple. One of the dragons muttered sarcastically. Oh, is there not one at your temple? Talk to Karl, he can make one. He is an avatar of the world dragon, after all. If anyone can influence the system, it's him. Dana retorted. Karl didn't know why everyone was suddenly looking at him. They must want him to make gear again. What? I already told you that there is a waiting list for gear. The elders laughed at Karl's annoyed tone, and the head healer placed a hand on Karl's shoulder. It's not like that. Your Dana mage informed us that you have the skill to create a class advancement trial at the Dragon God's Temple. That is what everyone is getting excited about, because while immortal rank classes might be better than the ones in the mortal realm, if you just compare the skills, a base class is still a base class. The warriors are still hyper-focused on their combat abilities. A base immortal cleric only really knows how to heal. So, the chance to make an advancement in their class is a huge opportunity for them, and the World Dragon is in charge of this world system. As his avatar, you are the logical choice to help us out. Ah, that makes sense. And I do actually have a skill that might help, as long as the temple is compatible. You see, the creation of that sort of trial is more of a suggestion on my part, and largely up to the willingness of the gods to actually permit it and grant the class upgrade. If they're not on good terms with the one in charge of the temple, you may not be able to enter. If they're not completely compatible with the one overseeing the temple, you might get strange hybrid options. There's really no way to say until I finish it and someone goes in to test it. But the most important part is that you need the qualifications. If you don't have any skills that don't come from your class, and your constitution is still the standard one for your species, the chances that you will actually be able to change your class are low. The cleric smiled. Well, that shouldn't be a problem. We do have the skill library here, so most of the older immortals have added a half-dozen specialty skills to support their desired combat style beyond what their base class gives them. If having those skills will help them get a class more in line with their desires, that is even better. The guidance of the skills would only reinforce their strengths, and that is precisely what they are hoping for from a new class. So, if you would be so kind as to go to the World Dragon Temple and see if you can add an advancement trial to the system stones, we would greatly appreciate it. And compensate you appropriately, of course. Karl nodded slowly. If they had system stones, they shouldn't need a trial. However, it was quite possible that they were partially inactive, and nobody had the right skills or knowledge to turn them back on. That seemed to be a running theme with the system. It was great news for Karl. They would give him all sorts of rewards for turning back on a function that was already there, and he wouldn't have to spend days and days making an entirely new trial instance. Or so he thought. When the cleric dragged him to the temple, Karl realized that it was not an active temple to the world dragon, but a historical relic, preserved with magic. The temple was in ruins, nobody ever set foot in it, and the system stones were at least half destroyed by whatever battle had shattered the temple. So, not only was he going to have to make a trial instance, he might just have to get permission to repair the clan's relic in the process so that the location was right. First things first, I need to see if there is still enough lingering holy magic from the temple to activate the spell. Karl warned. He focused on the system stones, checking to see how much of their magic was still intact. But what he found was that they were not only entirely different than the ones that he knew, they weren't even written in the same runic language. The rune crafting of the immortal realm was not the same as that of the mortal realm. The potency was on an entirely different level, and he had simply been making do with the runes that he knew. Making a system trial for immortals would require extensive research into the runic language of the immortal worlds, and then he would be able to start and pray that it was enough. However, there were dozens of other temples around the clan compound. Tens of thousands of immortals lived here, and they worshipped a wide variety of deities, so they had constructed small shrines and temples all over the city, as well as in many of the homes. The vast majority of them were to the dragon gods, or the human gods. However, there were a few more niche ones, as well as a spider goddess. Temple in one corner of the city. Those small shrines seemed to have formed a network of divine favor that Karl could sense when he interacted with what was left of the system stones. Perhaps he only had to make the trial and let the existing infrastructure do the heavy lifting? It was worth a shot. I will start by building a basic trial ground with what I know, and then we can test it. I have never done this in the immortal worlds before, so I can't guarantee that the version I know is going to be strong enough to let all of you advance. If necessary, I will put in the research and make an improved version. I trust the clan to have the resources. The cleric laughed. Oh, I suppose that we do. With a legacy as long as ours, even if our power is low, we do have quite a bit of esoteric knowledge collected. Is there a preferred spot? I didn't know that the World Dragon Temple was a protected relic of the clan, and I wouldn't want to disturb the grounds. If there is a good spot nearby, it might work just as well as in the old temple itself. The white dragon frowned. I think it's better that you do it at the temple. You can repair it if you would like. Assuming that you can step through the barrier. None of us can. It was set by a supreme-ranked disciple of the World Dragon. So, it's not a clan barrier to protect the temple? Yes and no. He was formerly the clan leader, but he has moved on after his successor rose in power and took over the duties. Karl frowned. That sounded like a very sanitized version of events that most likely included a coup or rebellion within the clan. If it was a peaceful transition, why did the disciple leave a ruined temple in a protective barrier that nobody else could break? Or was it that they were unwilling to, after he was gone? Karl decided that the history lesson could wait for later and took a step toward the barrier, intending to test its response to his presence. Everyone held their breath and waited, each expecting some sort of reaction from the barrier, which let Karl through as if it didn't exist. He walked over to the temple compound and began to inspect the rubble. There were signs of divine energy here, but not the same sort as what he would expect in a temple. It was more likely that this place had been attacked by a demigod. Look there on your right. The altar is still intact, Tion noted. Karl moved a bit of rubble and revealed what looked like a stone coffin with a dragon design on the top, along with a shield whose emblem looked like a dragonkin flanked by a human and a lamia on a black and white background. Karl thought back to his theology lessons and didn't recall anything of that nature in his lessons. It must be related to whoever's sarcophagus this was. The black and white split background was the symbol of the Darklight host, which gave Karl a good feeling about this place, even if he didn't recognize the personal heraldry. If this temple was built as a memorial to a member of the Darklight host, who was a strong follower of the World Dragon, there might be even more treasures hidden here for him to uncover. The mention of loot woke Kara up from her post-battle nap, and she eagerly began to survey their new acquisition. It was a good place, lots of magic, plenty of system influence on everything, and it was covered in runes that she didn't recognize. That must mean that it was extra valuable and worth trying to rebuild, just to see where all the runes went. Broken loot was just broken loot, after all. It would never be as good as intact loot. Karl tried not to laugh at the badger's train of thought as he explored the ruins. It looked like nothing had been touched since it was abandoned, as he could see scraps of cloth and paper under the fallen stone. Then, he saw the book sitting next to the ruins of the podium that had been behind the altar. That must be a holy book of some sort. Carefully, he lifted the ancient manuscript from the ruins and blew the dust from the cover. For a moment, he just stared at the cover, and then the runes began to shift in front of his eyes. System translation function updated, language pack unlocked, immortal worlds. Karl felt Dana gasp as she got the same message, and he began to read the title. Ceremonial Hymns, Volume 1. Well, it might not be a religious text in the strictest sense of the word, but the prayers of the Red Dragons were often battle chants and songs, so it might be incredibly valuable, as well as educating. Carefully, he opened the cover and read through the first song, which was a Red Dragon battle chant that he was already familiar with. It was one of Thor and Tessa's favorites because it was about crushing your enemies underfoot. He flipped the page and found that the texture of the paper changed. The first one had been fine vellum, as expected of a hymnal. This one was glossy paper, inferior in quality, and covered in pictures. Erotic pictures. Someone had removed the pages of the hymnal and replaced the contents with a collection of lewd comics. Kara laughed hysterically as she envisioned the scene. Someone had been sitting in these pews, most likely with their back to the wall, flipping dutifully through the hymnal, but actually reading smut. That was just too good. Give me that book. I want it. For reasons. Opal demanded. Seriously, it's soaked in holy magic. Karl shrugged and passed her the book. He could see more with the same cover under the stones, so they had likely been stored in the podium between sermons. Perhaps the next one would be intact? Before opening the next, Karl turned the book to check the paper. This one was all the same delicate pages, and when he slowly flipped through it, the whole thing was various church songs, mostly in common, but with some intended to be sung in draconic or demonic languages. Now that was an interesting development. Who would have thought that the World Dragon's temple sang in demonic? He was a dragon god, and while his system did extend to them, Karl wouldn't have expected his temple to cater to their languages. Karl put one of the intact books in his inventory as well, to read later, and continued his search through the rubble. The back rooms would more likely have valuable tomes than the front, unless there had been books stored in the pews. But those were likely to be the same songbooks that he already had. The back of the temple looked like it had taken much heavier damage than the front. The blocks were mostly shattered, and not just collapsed, while there were signs of burning as well. That might be secondary damage, the result of a lamp or fireplace being active when the building was destroyed. But it also looked like more attention had been paid to this area, and someone had cleaned it out of valuables before the barrier was erected. There were empty shelves in the rubble, the desk drawers had been removed and stacked to sit empty in the weather. Very orderly, not like the place was ransacked. but like someone had deliberately come to remove the valuables for safekeeping. That's a shame. I was hoping for books. Remy sighed. Me too. There is so much that could have been learned here. It's not a total loss, though. There are a lot of runes here for me to study, and they're in a whole new language. I got the system update, which is a great start, but I still need some practice with them. Karl spent a few more minutes searching, but the temple had obviously been cleaned of valuables long ago, which left him only a few clues, including a wall painting that had survived mostly intact, to guess how wealthy the temple had been. It didn't look promising. What it showed was two people in black and white robes flying while standing on a sword. That was pretty cool, but not a sign of great wealth. I want a flying sword, Kara insisted. Being able to relax on the sword while traveling would be even better than just flying by herself. We can work on that later. After all, every immortal could fly once they gained enough power. It wasn't exactly a huge accomplishment. The ones with wings and skills were just faster at it. All right, I think that I know what I need to do. There are enough temples here that I just need a clear spot. If nobody else can enter the temple grounds for the World Dragon, then I will make the entrance to the trial in the yard outside the barrier. Give me a day or two to prepare the trial stone. There is quite a bit that goes into it. He explained. Will you be starting on that now? The White Dragon asked. I have a punishment detail at the alchemy hall to finish first. The dragon laughed. In that case, you can stay right here. I will get you transferred from Elder Socrates' supervision to mine. This is a project to help the entire clan as well, and none of the elders would argue against it. Besides, you're almost done your time, aren't you? Karl nodded. Yes, I only had 50 hours, and I've been staying in the alchemy hall full time. In that case, if you finish your hours, we will pay you as a regular craftsman for the rest. That's likely going to need a budget approval, given the usual rates for a runecrafter, but I don't see them denying it. If nothing else, the church will cover the cost. Karl sighed. Don't worry too much about it. Given my position, I feel a bit bad about charging the church for repairing a function that should be on a holy temple. There is a partial set of system stones here, and while they are damaged and written in a different language than the ones I'm familiar with, they should have had that function when they were intact. So, I will try to recreate that ability for the clan, as they once had it available to them. There was no way that he could recreate a full set of system stones at the immortal rank. That magic was way beyond his power level. He should be able to make a proper set for the mortal world now, though. Anything that they were missing before would be present now, and Karl briefly considered where he should put them in the tiny world. That could come later, once he was finished here. The baby dragons would want it when they were hatched, and an immortal rank set of system stones might not be the same as a set designed for immortals to us, but it would let them pick their classes, he assumed. All right, while I'm certain that the ladies of the alchemy hall will be upset, I will start on the project here first, and anyone who wanted to place a custom equipment order can come to me and wait for my work to be finished. Karl agreed. Wonderful. The clan will be overjoyed to learn that there is a chance for advanced immortal grade class options. Karl nodded and sat down next to the ruins of the system stones, then sent Dana a mental message. What's all this with an immortal grade class? Did your skills change when you advanced? Of course. There is a whole separate section for whether I'm casting them with immortal energy or mortal mana. Do you not see that on your skills? Nope. I don't even get real damage output listings for most of them. They just scale with power input. But then most of my class skills are buffs with defined details, and the shared skills from the beasts are the ones that come with minimal details. So, it might not be a class-related issue, but one related to the fact that I am technically borrowing the abilities. Well, your class is strange anyhow. If they started trying to define the damage limits and abilities of Kara and Ray, it would just turn into a wall of text, so it's likely better that they didn't. Ray laughed at the thought. The mathematical calculations for how much her skills did at every stack and stage of predation would fill a whole textbook. It was better to just accept that the damage level was yes and go stab something. Karl settled in to sit by the damaged system stones, where nobody could actually reach him to bother him, and where he could try to compare the inscriptions on the damaged stones to the ones that he already knew. If they were largely similar, he could just translate the old ones to the new language and get most of the benefits for no extra work. The crowd gasped as Dana walked through the barrier to come sit by Karl, and then laughed as one of the elders ran into it like a solid wall. Well, that settles it. The barrier hasn't failed. It's just decided to let the Avatar and his wife in. We're soul bonded. It's only natural that it lets us both through if it allows one. Dana informed him. Right? Didn't know that. Dana set out a blanket and lay with her head in Karl's lap while he studied. It was the perfect spot to meditate, as Karl constantly radiated power, especially here where he didn't restrain his aura. No, that wasn't right. Karl did restrain his aura. He tried to make it less threatening, which reduced the intensity to near the level of everyone around him. It wasn't quite as comfortable as his cat demon form, but Karl's hand massaging her head wasn't half bad, and Dana was asleep only minutes later. Meditation was overrated anyhow. The sun in her eyes woke Dana up later in the day, and she found that she was still lying on Karl, but now she had a small white dragon curled up in her arms. Brother Chin, when did you get here? She whispered. The little dragon opened one eye, made a vague claw gesture, then fell asleep again. He came in on Kara's back earlier while you were sleeping. He was upset that I left him outside the barrier when I went exploring the ruins. The little dragon snorted in annoyance and cracked open an eye again. This is the only place safe to hide. I live in the temple. Dana waited for him to continue, but the dragon was back to napping, while Karl chuckled. The temple has dozens of green dragons and green dragon clerics. Plus, Min has been coming by every half hour to see if he's still here. They're all obsessed with the tiny dragons. And so he found a loophole to let him hide in the one spot they can't get to him. The rooms at the temple aren't private to other clerics. Karl agreed. Dana smiled. You know, you could let him hide in the tiny world. And let Lotus and the others loose on him. He's even smaller than Button. But he's immortal. That's got to count for something. Even if he's rebuilding his power from nothing. Karl shook his head. Being in the tiny world would just make him a target for an entire group of baby starved nature god followers, as well as the dragons of the orphanage, who were still eagerly awaiting their first hatchlings. That was the opposite of what Chin was trying to accomplish by hiding in Dana's arms. Did you learn anything while I was asleep? She asked, changing the topic. Quite a bit, actually. The immortal realm system of this world is both very similar to the one that we're familiar with, but somehow completely different. There are no shared portions of the runes at all, other than the ones that invoke system access. So, I'm quite sure that I can make a trial instance to access the system changes, with a bit of divine help. But actually recreating these system stones is going to be virtually impossible for me, unless I have a complete copy of them to work from and duplicate. That makes sense. It might be related to the same god, but it is not the same system. I recall that the immortals at our wedding said the same thing. They all had different systems, and they were even in branches of the same guild. But their systems were entirely different. Good point. They really did have nothing in common. That makes me feel a bit better about not being able to understand this one. Fortunately, the language for accessing the divine trials is fairly universal, so I'm going to start on a set of instance stones tonight, and I should have them ready by morning. The same way that you made the towers for the academy? Karl nodded. Exactly like that, but with different instructions. Actually, that's not a bad idea. The problem is that I'm not strong enough yet. Perhaps I'll make one when I get closer to peak immortal to train the children in. Dana settled back into meditation holding the tiny dragon, and Karl returned to his work, creating layer upon layer of the obelisk that would activate the class advancement trial. That was specifically what he designed it to be. Activating and advancing classes. But he did make it a proper instance, and didn't just try to have it activate the system interface. That way, they would be safely inside where nobody else could mess with them while they were distracted, and if the system wanted to give them a trial to prove that they could have the class, it was a possibility. What sort of trial it could give them was questionable. If it relied on Karl's own strength, it likely wouldn't be a combat trial. Most of the immortals who would want an advanced class were stronger than he was. Well, if you looked at it through pure energy throughput, most of the immortals in general were stronger than he was. But that didn't mean they were better fighters. By the time that he finished, Karl had created 100 layers of stone, carved inside and out on each layer, and then bonded them to a large square base. That would not be knocked over by accident, though he did put a defensive barrier on it as well as a mana-gathering runic formation so that it didn't need outside protection or energy to activate. Now all that was left was to put it out so that others could reach it and to find a volunteer to test it. Finding good volunteers is always the hard part. Remy agreed. Chin woke up as Karl was finishing his work and stretched his wings. I forgot how tiring it is to be a young dragon. All I want to do is eat and nap. Speaking of which, it's almost breakfast service. If we head over there now, we can make first seating," he suggested. "That's a wonderful idea. I rarely eat in the dining hall. I have just been getting something from near the alchemy hall. But today I need volunteers, and there is no better place to get them than the cafeteria." The little dragon laughed. "Yes, everyone who wants to save money for resources, or who is flat broke and in need of an opportunity will be there." The food was actually excellent, but many of the clan members were reclusive, and the dining hall had a very high school vibe to it, complete with cliques and bullying. "I have outfits to help you fit in with the locals," Ray announced as Karl got to his feet. "Oh, let's see what you came up with." Naturally, she started with Dana. The outfit was simple, with loose black pants tucked into knee-high boots, black folded robes with a red inner layer, and a red waist sash covered in small pockets. Those were Kara's suggestion, as the Badger firmly believed that ladies' fashion needed more pockets in general. Worn with the new chainmail tunic underneath and her usual bracers, she was both armored and stylish in the local style. She could fight in this outfit with ease, and it wasn't too different from the martial artist-style battle robes that she usually wore in combat, other than the length of the top, which extended to her calves instead of stopping mid-thigh. Perhaps a cape? A cape would add a nice dramatic flair. It's a bit hot for a cape. Plus, it would hide her ears if she had a hood. Tion added. Chin watched as Dana adjusted her outfit a bit, adding earrings and a white jade pendant that dangled from her waist sash. It was a good look and much better match to the local style than the suit that Karl usually wore. "Now, I have a similar one for Karl. Or we could do something fun and different." A thought flashed in her head of a pirate in loose pants, with a sword hung from a silk belt, shirtless under an open leather vest. "I'm fairly sure that we need shirts for breakfast. Don't take fashion advice from Opal." Remy suggested that one. "It's in a book she's reading." Dana laughed quietly as the beasts argued about how to decorate Karl for breakfast. "Oh, I have just the right thing," Ray exclaimed. Then she handed Karl a golden clerical hassock held in shape by a black silk rope, with loose pants underneath. "I remember being told that only the green dragon clerics wear them without pants," she bragged. Dana laughed as Karl dutifully changed, and Chin joined in. "Oh, that is perfect. Looking like a cleric of the world dragon. If you're looking to recruit people to test whatever you made last night, this is just the look you need." The little dragon giggled, before flapping his wings to go land on Karl's shoulder. Jealous of another flying creature claiming his spot, Hawk returned to demon crow form and went to sit on Karl's other shoulder. It felt crowded. Fine, he would travel on Dana's shoulder instead. It wasn't the same, but it wasn't all bad. The only real issue was that they weren't the same height, so the view changed. Though, now that Karl was going about cosplaying as a human, he was a full 15 centimeters shorter than usual. Taller than he was when he was at the academy, but still quite short compared to the nearly 2-meter-tall cat demon form. People turned to stare as the odd group walked into the room, followed by Kara and Ray, who had both transformed so they could come and watch the show. Getting volunteers was going to be great, but watching everyone's reaction to the public reveal of Brother Chin as a hatchling was going to be even better. For the first few seconds, nobody reacted to the sight of the dragon on Karl's shoulder, only politely nodding to the new head of the Spirit Immortal rankings. Then, it began to dawn on them that if Hawk was riding on Dana's shoulder, that had to be something else with Karl. Something with vivid blue eyes and ice-white scales that they knew entirely too well after having been berated 100 times in the past for using healing resources on stupidity. No reason was ever good enough for Brother Chin, but none of them were bad enough that he would hesitate to heal you while he berated you, either. That was the only drawback to going to the White Dragons for healing. They could cure nearly anything, but they were firm believers that taking risks which led you to need their services was overrated. For that reason, many of them advanced slowly, but White Dragons were patient sorts to begin with. "How did you convince him to come with you? He's been hiding from everyone for an entire day, and we thought that he was ashamed to have lost the fight or that he didn't want anyone to see him in his recovery form," one of the other healers asked. Karl laughed. "He's not embarrassed, just sleepy. Dragons are like that when they're small. All their energy goes into growing. So he's been with me at the Old World Dragon Temple for the last day. Speaking of which, I have recreated one of the ancient functions, the class change obelisk. If anyone would like to come with me to test it out after breakfast, I will reward you for your efforts. What sort of reward? One of the men in the back asked. How about a clan credit, with the chance to upgrade your class, if you have the prerequisites? A great cheer went up in the dining hall. How many volunteers do you need? For a clan credit each, we will be more than happy to help you with whatever you need today. Karl pretended to be torn about the cost as he hesitated. Well, at a clan credit each, I suppose that I can afford to have 10 beta testers before I turn over control to the elders. Assuming that it works, that is. There are only 2 conditions. You need to have 3 skills that did not come from your skill tree, and you need to have purchased all the skills that your class can from the skill tree, or equivalent method. Oh, make that 3 conditions. Your system should come from the world dragon, not one of the other gods. I have no idea what will happen if someone else uses the obelisk with an incompatible system. We can test that later. The immortals laughed. Nearly every one of them had managed to get enough skill points or rewards to buy out their skill tree by now. It usually only took 50 or 60 years, and most of them were still in the spirit immortal stage of training when they got the last of their skills. So, some of them had been at the requirements that Karl set for nearly a century. However, the enthusiasm cooled quickly when they realized that there was more to this than just a chance to advance their class. When everyone in the clan who was more powerful than them also qualified for the opportunity, wouldn't they want it first? Or were the elders waiting for someone else to do the testing before they claimed the resource for the clan and used it themselves? How many uses will this new item of yours have? One of the warriors asked carefully. 1 per person, in theory. If you qualify, it should let you try. There is a small timer between uses, but it's not a major limitation. That calmed many of their fears. They weren't going to run the item out of charges testing it, and cause the elders to have to wait for Karl to manage to make another one. So, it was just everyone under the rank of clan elder that they had to consider. One man raised his hand. I will volunteer. There are no druids in the clan stronger than I am, so I will take a spot on their behalf. All right, that's the druids covered. I wasn't originally going to sort by class, as there are so many warriors compared to everything else. But I would like to see at least 1 or 2 dual and group tanking specialists among the volunteers, if possible. Worst case scenario, you get nothing but a credit. Best case, you get a whole new advanced class plus a clan credit. That brought a few more to their feet, and then back down to their seats as a more powerful group stood up and forced them back down. All right, we're at 6 members now. Can we get some mages or clerics? If we do this right, we can send 2 groups of 5 out to test their new classes at the same time. In their rush to secure their own advancement, nobody had thought that far, but now that Karl had mentioned it, the healers and mages who worked with or as underlings to the warriors who had volunteered were dragged forward. Perfect. That's 11 in total, and I can make that work. I have the resources to pay you all. I just need to finish my breakfast first. On his shoulder, Brother Chin laughed, then gestured to a pile of chicken breasts. Grab me those, will you? My human form is absolutely useless at this age. While he wasn't as small as Jeff had become, his human form would only be about 5 years old. Tall enough to reach the counter, but just barely, and he couldn't get any of the good stuff out of the cabinets without help or flying. Meat? Oh, red meat, white meat, fish meat, crunchy meat. Hawk demanded as Dana walked down the line. Is this how Karl usually does it? Just loads you up a plate of every sort of meat. And then juice. He always finds me a juice to pour on them. Gravy, got it. What sort is your favorite? Purple. Dana stared at what was very clearly blueberry pancake syrup as Hawk demanded that she pour it all over his plate of assorted meat. Are you sure? It smells delicious. So, she poured the syrup on the meat as the person behind her stared in horror. At the concoction, the other plate looked normal. Eggs, rice, roast pork, all in very normal proportions. They all sat at a large table, and the volunteers came over to join them. How exactly did you manage to recreate something from a lost temple that has been sealed for thousands of years? One of the warriors asked, assuming that this was the culmination of some grand research program that Karl had simply provided the last piece for. Actually, it lets me in, as I am an avatar of the world dragon. It's all written there inside the temple. I just needed to tweak it some and adjust for the missing parts. And now I'm quite certain that this one particular function should be working again. The temple used to do so much more for the clan. It's a real shame that it was damaged. The warrior nodded in agreement. If we could all get better advanced classes, we might be able to keep a few more of our senior people. Having them all run off to find clans that have better opportunities than new home is a bit of a downer, especially when you've gotten used to them. Karl chuckled, while Brother Chin nodded in agreement. Getting used to new people is a pain in the ass. Even if the old people were annoying, you at least knew what sort of annoying they were. The little dragon mumbled around a mouthful of food. So, to verify, this is just a recreation of something that the World Dragon Temple used to be able to do. One of the warriors asked, double-checking the safety measures. It is. Sadly, it's only a small portion of what a full temple should be able to do, if it were made by a supreme or legendary cleric. However, this one function is one that everyone in the clan is likely to need at some point. Karl agreed. Someone called for the serving bunnies to bring over more food, and Karl tried not to laugh as he realized that they served the entire table while standing in the safe spot between him and Dana. The others didn't seem to notice. They just accepted that the plates appeared in the middle of the table and enjoyed their second breakfast while they waited for Karl's group to be ready. All right, folks, let's head over to the obelisk and see what it can do. That got everyone moving, and coincidentally stymied the attempts of the green dragons to sneak up on Brother Chin, who had circled in front of Karl to stay out of easy reach. Perhaps because of the dragon, they had a large procession of clan members following them when they headed back to the World Dragon Temple. The 10 volunteers, the green dragons, and a bunch of curious onlookers who wanted to see how the efforts of one of those two groups worked out. The best part, in the minds of the spectators, was that Brother Chin was actually friends with most of the green dragons, so he didn't have a particularly good reason to avoid them, other than knowing that they were obsessed with small and cute things. Well, it's impressive, I will give it that much. The runic writing on it alone must have been a real chore to do. But how is it supposed to work? The druid asked. In theory, you just have to place your hand on it and activate it. Then, it should move you into a separate space to make your choice so that you are not attacked or interrupted while you are lost in the system interface. Karl explained. Oh, that is a convenient feature. You never know when someone holding a grudge might try to sabotage an advancement opportunity. Presumably that meant that it was difficult to tell who might be holding a grudge, because Karl could nearly guarantee that there was at least one person in the crowd who had already considered trying to ambush or interrupt someone attempting to advance their class. How do we determine who goes first? One of the warriors asked. Do you need a demonstration? I don't think that I qualify, but I can show you how it's supposed to work. Karl offered. No. If you vanish into some system interface limbo and don't come back for hours, how are we supposed to know if it's broken or if you just got a great opportunity and don't want to share? Dana rolled her eyes. The immortals really did have a different mindset. The mortals worried more about the risks, but their hesitation was more about the odds of getting something really valuable if they went first versus the odds of being mugged for it when they got back. Finally, one of the green dragons got bored and rushed past the group to go poke the new thing. Karl laughed as the short woman hugged the large stone pillar, then vanished. Well, we can say that it works, and that you all talk for too long before you make decisions. The druid smiled. I figure that she actually did pretty well. For a 15-year-old green dragon, waiting one whole minute had to be painful. Moments later, the dragon was back, and extra excited, even by green dragon standards. We need to celebrate. Give me the dragon. Karl laughed as he handed her a startled Chin, who was promptly spun in circles as the cleric laughed. Chin, I got a new class. A whole new class. I'm no longer just a cleric of the green dragon. I am a nature guardian. It's almost a druid, and I get cuddly things and a super awesome new skill. Brother Chin laughed along with her. That's very exciting, Jenna. You have to show me these cuddly things that you get. They should be the guardians that the class was named after, as the nature guardian class wasn't an unknown one. It was an advancement down the druid path. If she can do it, the standard shouldn't be too impossible. She's only just finished learning a few extra skills and barely reached the entry of Spirit Immortal. One of the warriors whispered. But she is a cleric. It's a holy relic. They always get some preferential treatment. One of the others countered. That was hard to argue against. The green dragons had excellent luck, but Jenna had more than most. She had managed to get her hands on a copy of, if not Friend, Why Friend Shaped, when she was still little, and she had been abusing it since then. Even by Green Dragon standards, it was a miracle that she was still alive. Chin took flight, so the cleric would focus and cast her new spell, which she did with a huge dramatic twirl. A single immortal rank dire bear appeared next to her, and the dragon cheered for herself before hugging the furry beast. Well, now it really will be impossible to get her to do anything productive. One of the warriors sighed. Karl shook his head. Actually, it will help. Giving them a giant bear lets them get their fill of fluff in advance, so they're ready to go on adventures when everyone else is. They don't get nearly as sidetracked if their basic needs are fulfilled. And how is that a basic need? I'm not entirely clear either, but followers of the Green Dragon have a particular affinity for giant bears. The druid snorted with laughter and patted the bear on the head as he walked past. Karl made a good point. Jenna would certainly be much more relaxed than the average Green Dragon if she could just nap with her summoned bear all day long. That was half of the species' basic desires covered. Then, if they got to help plants grow and go on adventures to see new things, it would be so much easier to keep them happy. But that was someone else's problem. He placed his hand on the obelisk, and the world vanished around him as he was pulled into the class change option. The first thing that he noticed was the option to advance to the Nature Guardian class, the same as Jenna had done. He would be approaching it from the other side, as a druid with extra healing skills. But the class was the same. He wasn't going to pick it. It was not the path that he was on. Though, it was amusing to see that it was an option. Instead, he focused on the combat-focused classes, as he was normally the one in his group who took the duels when they were challenged for a resource spot or dungeon. Druids were great at it, as they could transform into a much stronger beast form. But their true value to a group was their versatility. Being able to transform and take hits, gain special skills from their beast forms, as well as heal made them perfect for any situation. Even if they were traveling alone, they wouldn't suffer nearly as many of the hardships as many others did. Plus, there was one other advantage. Being attuned to nature, they were much better at detecting rare magical resources than others. For an immortal, especially one from a merchant clan, as he intended to remain with the new home clan for the foreseeable future, unlike many others who preferred to take the opportunities that they could find to increase their growth rates. It was an essential skill to be able to find the best deals and hidden treasures. His final decision was the Feral Protector class, and once it was chosen, he left the menu and felt his body returning from wherever he had been relocated to finish the process. How did it go, Jacob? Did you get a new class? A warrior asked. Indeed. I got the Feral Protector class. Big bonuses to my transformed states, and more defensive skills as base class skills. And then it gives me the chance to get even more skills from the trees that I might not have been able to use before. These advanced classes are really good. Go ahead and go in. I don't see any issues with trying. There doesn't seem to be any risk. It just activates the class selection menu for you. It might be something that you should be able to do on your own, but I don't see an option in my system interface. That sent the warrior running for the obelisk to be the next inside. But half a minute later, he returned with a sour look on his face. I think that I need to wait. The only option it gave me was Paladin. One single option. But it said that I could come back when I asked, so I'm going to go try to learn some more varied skills. One of the others shrugged. I don't object to the Paladin class. It's a healing tank, which is an improvement. Trying to kill those assholes in a challenge is a nightmare. Every time you think that you have them down, they just bubble and vanish or heal themselves. The immortals all laughed at his sour tone. But then the second warrior went to use the obelisk. If he came back as a paladin, it wouldn't be a loss to his group. This one was gone for longer than the other warrior was, and when he came back, he looked much more excited. The system had some good options for me. It looks like all those health regeneration skills that I took paid off, and it gave me the Blood Knight class. He explained. What even is that? One of the others asked. It's a self-healing warrior class. Enhanced healing on hit. Healing as a percentage of damage done. Life leech. All the good stuff. Oh, now we're talking. That is going to be great when we go out to the trial grounds. You'll be able to hold your own in any sort of duel, as long as they don't one-hit you. The warrior laughed. I doubt that they'll manage that so easily. But if they do, then they likely deserve the win. One after another, everyone queued up to go inside and try their luck. Everyone who tried the obelisk entered the menu, as they all had a world dragon-related system. But not all of them were happy with the options that they were presented. They either weren't significantly better, or they didn't go in the direction that the immortal had wanted to. Many of them had taken skills based on what was cheap, or what they got as a reward in trials. So, they didn't always have a skill set that qualified them for the particular sorts of advanced classes that they were hoping to see, which meant that they were going to have to pay for expensive, rare, and epic skills to get the class advancement that they wanted. That was going to take time to gather the payment for, but it was also going to put a strain on the skill repository once the warriors started to learn what skills would qualify them for certain high-demand classes. With so many of them in the clan, the demand was going to almost immediately overwhelm the supply of skill books. The mages, on the other hand, were much more pleased with their options. They were all about the damage, and as they had focused on the spells that were best aligned with their fundamental rule comprehension, they were already on their way to an advanced class. How good it was depended on just what opportunities they had gained, but none of them failed to find a class that they found suitable to replace the base mage class. Karl poked Brother Chin. "Hey, little dragon, do you have your class skills capped out?" Chin huffed a small burst of golden light. "Not anymore. It reset all my class skills when I was reborn. I'm working on regaining the skills that I learned manually, but all my skill points and class skill options reset when I entered this new body. I'm just lucky that I have a class at all. If I were any smaller, I would have had to wait. Hell, if I was Jeff, I would have had to wait. He was bigger than this when he got his class the first time. Jeff is going to have a tough life again, but for an entirely different reason." Karl agreed. Chin laughed, his tiny body twitching with amusement. Yes, being the beloved pet of the most notorious cat girl in the entire clan is not going to be easy on him. He got used to having her hit on him years ago, but now that she wants to mother and cuddle him, he doesn't stand a chance. He's too small to reject her advances, and she's gone full maternal mode. It won't be all bad. He's got someone looking out for him. I don't know how some of the others are going to fare. You've got a full team that supports you. Jeff has Nyan, but a lot of the others who were reborn were just cronies and errand runners for one of the factions. They didn't have good friends like that. Chin's wings fluttered as he shrugged. Well, that's the hazard. Besides, they're unlikely to be targeted again. They already lost, and while they were rescued, the other clans will assume that they'll need time to rebuild any sort of respectable wealth. I would worry more about you going out. You successfully rescued them, and that's going to paint a target on your back the moment that you step back outside again. You and your friends. The sects don't forget quickly. The immortals waiting their turn all laughed at his understatement. They were immortals. Some of them would quite literally hold a grudge forever. Angering people in this world meant a possibility that even a century later, someone might ambush you to get even for a slight they had remembered from a lifetime ago. There were even cases where someone had worked for over 1,000 years just to get more powerful than their perceived nemesis, only to realize that they had been totally forgotten by the time that they had gained the power they were seeking. Most of the warriors who came back out were coming out as new classes, but Karl saw that there were two now who had chosen to delay their advancement until they had a better set of skills. That would be disappointing to their teams. But the obelisk was also gathering a crowd, so they might not be short on volunteers. "How many times a day does this item work, Avatar?" one of the members asked. "I have no idea. It will stop when the gods will it, then start again when they decide it is time." Very obscure, but I get your point. You made it, and it relies on divine will to activate the system interface, so you don't actually know the answer, do you? Not even a vague hint. In theory, it should just keep working. So, a large portion of the clan might be able to advance out of the base Immortal Warrior class. At least the ones from this world, or a world dragon-based system world. Karl agreed. So, we're going to be flooded with Blade Masters and Paladins instead of warriors. They are the two easiest to activate. The mage sighed. Well, if it doesn't have a daily cap on it, I will get in line and try my luck. I've got a pretty good chance of something better than basic. Mage, what did you specialize in? Karl asked, chatting to pass the time as he made notes on everyone who came out. Fire. I mastered the fundamental rule of fire. Hawk cheered, startling Dana and everyone standing nearby. The mage laughed. Right, Dark Fire Phoenix. That demon crow form messes with me, and I forget that he's more than a simple support pet like the Rangers. Have. Hawk nodded, and the mage tossed him a bit of fire element candy. This guy isn't half bad. You're too easy to bribe. Kara reminded him. Whatever, he likes fire, and he gives out candy. I know you like candy too. Other than the druid and the first green dragon who had gone in, there hadn't been any real surprises among the classes so far, Karl noted. Everyone was learning the same set of skills, the ones that were the most useful in their expected combat scenarios and daily life. They didn't want to distract from their progress with irrelevant skills, so unless they had gotten it from a trial, they didn't waste time or resources on other stuff. It was a sad situation, no matter how happy everyone was about the situation. Then Min, the cashier from the supply warehouse, made it to the front of the line and vanished inside. Oh, that one should be fun. She was a druid, right? She's learned a lot of strange stuff trying to find a way to make more friends among the beasts. One of the warriors laughed. Where's the old goat? One of the others asked. He's teaching class right now. Once the kids are out, he will likely make it. Over. Why do you call him a goat? Dana asked, unsure who they were talking about. Oh, it's one of the teachers whose horns curl like a mountain goat's. It's quite unusual even for an obsession demon. He's one of the older immortals in the clan, even if he's only just started into the void stage. He's learned all sorts of techniques, trying to find one that worked for him. Actually, we should drag the moron over here. Perhaps if he changed his class, he would see the light and become less of an idiot. The man known as the moron becoming coherent enough that he no longer earned his nickname seemed like a long shot. But Karl wasn't going to argue with the idea. Even if the odds of success were minimal, it would be a kindness to get him onto a path that actually let him progress. Karl felt a familiar presence behind him and turned to see Elders Socrate and Malcolm approaching the growing group. Elders, did you want to advance your class as well? We're over 30 tests in now, with no glitches or errors. We have had a few rejections, as some warriors didn't want to pick the paladin path, which was the only one available to them. Karl greeted them. It works? That is wonderful news. Indeed, we will give it a try. However, that is not what we came here for. You have finished your public service hours, as ordered by the clan court. You can consider your debt paid. An elder for Sham insists that there will be payment for your obelisk coming later. According to the clan rules, as it was erected by you, though it is a free service to the clan members, you will be rewarded with clan credits for its use while leadership determines if access should be regulated to prevent incidents. Incidents. Kids trying to advance early, silly bets, or bullying others into choosing an undesirable class. That sort of thing. What Fersham was thinking was to station a pair of clerics in front of it with a truth spell to make certain that everyone is entering of their own free will and desires to change their class. Elder Malcolm explained. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. I never thought about the chances that someone might try something so underhanded. It would totally destroy someone's future if they were forced onto an unsuitable class. There are no do-overs, and no going back once you have chosen. Though, no class is really useless. They're all designed for some niche, and it might just require a change of mindset to fully embrace them. Back in the mortal worlds, I knew a very gentle mom friend sort of woman who awakened the Berserker class. It was an adjustment for her, but she's come quite far now. Elder Socrate nodded. It would be a bit like Remy getting a class that was incompatible with alchemy. Being a shaman works wonderfully for her, but if she was a warlock or necromancer, it would be a tragedy for her progress. The magic of the classes interferes with the necessary processes for alchemy at the immortal rank. It doesn't happen often, but it wouldn't be the first time that a warlock finally reached immortality only to realize that their trade skill was now entirely useless to them. Elder Malcolm chuckled. Warlocks have it hard. Remember Layman the Grand? Elder Socrate laughed. Oh, that was great. His grand patron was a low ascendant rank immortal. 3 weeks after he arrived in the immortal world, the warlock was bragging and annoyed a supreme ranked dragon, who killed his patron and left him powerless. Can you imagine what it was like for the patron, though? The guy got murdered for knowing a braggart. Karl joked. He should have known better than to actually help his disciple reach the immortal realm. Most who take warlocks under their wings just get them to peak mythic rank, then drain the warlock's life force to fuel their own advancements. It's not like a mortal realm contract has any meaningful limitation on a strong immortal. They can just break it at will, leaving the warlock without any skills or external power. Note to self, the warlock class is not a good recommendation. Oh, the one through the system is safe enough. The gods don't care enough to stop you doing what you can to ascend. Perhaps if you do manage to get to the peak of demigod rank as a warlock, they would do the same. But for us, Mere immortals were too weak for it to be a real risk. Min came back out with a huge smile on her face and ran over to greet Karl and Dana. Thank you so much for the obelisk. Greetings, elders. That is such a great function. It's like the system thought it was so obvious that anyone should be able to do it, but we all forgot how to access it. She rambled. What did you pick? Dana asked. I picked the Forest Stalker class. It's a super cool invisible cat form transformation-based skill, Druid Advanced class. Almost a rogue-type druid. Now, I can sneak around when I'm out gathering resources and not be bothered at all. And the fact that you're now able to be huge and fluffy didn't enter into the equation. You should see the tail. It's almost as long as the body and so huge and fluffy. Yeah, I suspected that might be part of it. How large is the Forest Stalker transformation? Dana asked. About the size of a panther? About 150 kilos. Not huge, just big enough to go anywhere. But the skill tree is wonderful as well. It's got a bunch of nature-related skills and assassination-style attacks. A bit of all the good stuff. Somehow, the super excitable pink-haired druid didn't seem like the sort to go for assassination as a specialty, but Karl reserved judgment. Druids were supposed to be in tune with nature, so perhaps she had a finer appreciation of the hunting arts than her personality suggested. Then, the obelisk encountered its first rejection. One of the young immortals tried to activate it and began swearing at his system interface. What the FCK do you mean insufficient skills? I've got my skill tree full. How can it just deny me a new class like that? He was shouting. Do you at least have one more skill from the repository? Someone asked, trying to be helpful. Why would I waste money on that? My special skill lets me buy skill points with cash. I've bought out every skill that I can know. He screamed. Karl chuckled and then patted Elder Malcolm on the shoulder. I'm afraid that it might be time for you to work soon. It looks like there is going to be a fight. The elder smirked back at him. Oh, and who do you think will be fighting? It won't be long before he remembers that you made it. In that case, I should go get a mop and bucket. One of the warriors nearby overheard Karl's joke and rushed over to stop the angry rogue before he could do something that he would regret. Given what happened the last time that someone challenged Karl in public, they really might be cleaning his opponent up with a mop. He might not particularly like the man, but he was part of the same hunting team, and he was a reliable member who would always have your back, as long as you didn't try to cheat him out of loot. All right, calm down. I will take you to the skill hall to pick out a new ability. All we need to do is find you a strong specialty skill that points your new class in the direction you want to grow. No big deal. You're just missing one quest item to complete the requirements. That seemed to calm the man down, and he quietly apologized to the man that he had been arguing with. This place is going to be a new attraction. I can feel it already. Min joked. The secret ability of stealth classes, gathering gossip. Karl agreed. The green dragon laughed. That's not a secret. Plus, I don't need to go places to get gossip. I work at the warehouse. Everyone brings gossip to me. That's because you don't give us any hassles about the quality of the supplied materials if you get a dose of gossip with them. One of the warriors reminded her. It's a good system. You know, you really should give that thing a try. Your class hasn't changed since you arrived here in the clan, but you've got so many skills already. Min suggested. You're not the first to say that. I just think that I need to tweak my skills a bit more before I change classes. I've got some good stuff, for certain, but I feel like I could get something truly exceptional if I can just get one more skill. Karl explained. Is there a reason for that? Just wanting to explore the skill repository. Dana asked through the mind link. I've got a boatload of skill points built up and a talent to buy new skills. I haven't even used it yet, and it seems like a waste to change classes without seeing just how powerful that skill could be. He also hadn't tried to cap out his other skills or add extra beast spaces with Blessing of Family. But it was the Blessing of Skill that was the real point sink. Blessing of Skill creates one random skill. Cost varies based on rarity. 1 point for common skills, 5 for rare skills, 25 for epic skills, 50 for artifact grade skills, 500 for legendary skills. How many points do you even have? I know that you were stockpiling them. Dana asked. Available skill points, 205. I've got enough to get at least a few more skills, and then bump up my damage buff skill a bit. Why do I see this ending badly? Dana asked, already seeing Kara's imminent celebration. Nothing had even happened yet, and the Badger was getting excited. That never ended with anything resembling a calm outcome. In fact, It might end in some sort of natural disaster or unexplainable celestial phenomenon. Don't be so down on it. You're bonded to him already, so it might be a new epic skill for you. We can get a whole bunch of them, Kara suggested. Or, hear me out, we could get 2 artifact grade skills, and then put 100 points into more damage. Ray countered. Oh, that's not bad. An extra 100% skill damage buff would be pretty nice. But that only leaves us enough for 4 epic skills. No, we should get the 2 artifact grade skills. Artifact grade is best. Or at the very least, it was the best that they could afford. It was the great conundrum. Quantity over quality. Ray wanted the chance at something huge and impressive, while Kara wanted as much chaos as possible with 8 different epic grade skills. We should probably save some points for the new class, right? Thor suggested. If they were going to advance, then they were going to need points to get new skills. It would suck to have a whole new class and not be able to get the benefits because you didn't have any points. Oh, that's a good point. We could get the skills later. We don't lose the skill, but we have all the class abilities in their base form, so we should be fine too. Change. Ray reluctantly agreed. What if there was something even better that needed a lot of points? What is he delaying for? One of the freshly upgraded warriors asked. I think that he has something left to buy in his class tree, since he's so new. He might be weighing the merits of waiting versus buying it now and rushing to the obelisk before he's done all he can to guarantee a better upgrade class. One of the others suggested. Fine, skip the points into damage. Or like half of them. No, skip the bonus damage points. We can get more damage later. It's better to have cool stuff. Now, Ray relented. Your sisters are influencing you, Thor informed her in a dry tone. Says the man who spends all his days sparring or lounging in the hot springs with his girlfriend. It's not much, but it's an honest living. Dana let out a snort of laughter that most assumed was about the conversation around her. Thor's laid-back personality really wasn't well suited to a rush to immortality. Even if he wasn't struggling to advance, he was in no rush to get ahead and put Tessa another rank behind him. Dana couldn't blame him. He had a good life in the tiny world, and while it was sad to see him separated from the majority of the team, he was a great addition to the rest of the guild members now that she had advanced. Karl stared at the blessing of skill ability, wondering just what course was the best, as there was no consensus. Epic would have a better chance of giving something to everyone. But artifact grade skills were typically absolutely broken. For example, Remy's 1,000-year flood could now generate 10 million cubic meters a minute. The scaling at Immortal had been absolutely insane, enabling her to generate as much as a large nation's daily use over the course of a minute. It was a slow building skill, but if she kept it up for even an hour, it wouldn't be difficult to fill an average-sized city to the top of the city walls. Truly worthy of the name of the skill now that she had reached immortality. However, that wasn't the greatest use of the skill. When she combined it with Thunderstorm, she could saturate the ground in advance and hide the approach of the floodwaters until it was too late for anyone to run from the incoming disaster. You know, getting like 40 rare grade skills is an option too. Kara reminded them. That would be hilarious, but they wouldn't be likely to be powerful enough to entirely change someone's fighting style. That was what Karl was hoping for here. A signature skill that would shape the next class option that he got. How much further he could go on this class chain, now that he had reached the status of Avatar, was a mystery. But there had to be something. He had just entered the immortal realm, so logic dictated that he should be able to start on a whole new path of abilities that would let him start building power as if he were a beast master freshly born into this world. That might not be how it worked, given that he had advanced his class multiple times, and it was a rare one to begin with. But it did make sense to more than just Kara. 1 artifact, 2 epic, save the rest of the points to see what class we get. Final offer. Rack insisted. Ooh, a compromise. That sounds fun. Do you think that I'll get one of the new skills? I'm almost big enough to be immortal now. Tion cheered. He was still half-grown, but he was much larger than the tiny ball of fluff that they had first encountered. All right, that is what we will do. Do we start big or start small? Start small, finish big. We can't have premature congratulations. Dana rolled her eyes. Get on with it. Everyone is starting to think you're crazy. Sorry, I'm just sorting through things I want to finish. Give me half a minute. Karl explained. Blessing of skill activated, generating random epic grade skill. Skill generated, tribulation chain, epic grade control skill. Binds the target in tribulation lightning. Deals 600% skill damage as lightning and holy damage if the target attempts to escape. Damage causes agony effect. Oh, that wasn't bad. The damage if they tried to move was immense, and it would punish them with pain for trying to escape. Skill learned. Skill book generated. The world has a new skill. Wait, it doesn't just give us a random skill. It creates a new skill. Damn, we should have saved up points to get the super good one. Kara realized. Not bad. A Thor-flavored skill. But it is good for the Dana Mage too, to keep things from trying to hit her. Tion cheered. Blessing of skill activated, generating random epic grade skill. Skill generated, Soul Harvest, epic grade skill. Drains immortal essence directly from the immortal body or immortal spirit of the target or targets in the affected area to feed the power of the caster. Skill learned. Skill book generated. The world has a new skill. Ray wiped a tear from her eye. It's beautiful. Absolutely stunning. Is it possible to fall in love with a system? Dana stared at the spider. That skill was 100% going on every single clan and sect's forbidden spells list the moment that they found out that it existed. The problem was that the ability taught Karl the skill and made a book, which meant that Ray already had access to the Soul Harvest skill. She was not the most excited one, though. The Haint was doing happy dances in Karl's mind. That was a skill that it could use, and it was far superior to the old draining effect that she could use. It was basically the immortal ranked upgrade to the draining abilities of the Haint and the Sword of Champions combined into one skill. Forget just killing them. They could steal their life, their soul, and their progress as an immortal all at the same time. Using that skill for even a short time would cripple an enemy permanently, even if they were left alive. All right, that's one for Thor, one for Ray. Come on, lucky system roll, come to puppy. Last roll, bring me that sweet, sweet artifact, grade skill. Tion cheered. Remy giggled. If anyone was going to get a cool new skill at the artifact grade, it would be funniest if it was Leo or Opal. Leo was still a hatchling, still learning how to operate even in his own space. But giving the new skill to Opal might actually force her to go outside and do stuff, or at least send her avatar to do it for her. Opal looked up from her new reading material, acquired from the World Dragon Temple. If it was going to force her to go outside, the real world was going to need some upgrades. The graphics were spectacular, but the gameplay experience was terrible. Too slow-paced, not enough romance. Dana sighed. They were definitely going to have to do something about Opal before she became a lost cause or a complete shut-in. She was already most of the way there, and she hadn't even reached Immortal yet. Kara pulled out a drum from her pile of loot. Dum-dum-dum. And now for the grand finale. Blessing of skill activated, generating random artifact, grade skill. Golden light exploded from Karl's body as the skill activated, and that sense of being watched by the divine returned, filling the clan with dread. Skill learned. Skill book generated. The world has a new skill. Karl frowned at the delay. He should have learned the name and ability of the skill before that message. And he didn't have his book yet. Golden light pierced the sky, surrounding Karl's group. From the clouds, a massive skill book descended, and Karl frowned at the theatrics. The first two had arrived without any fanfare, but now the entire clan knew that he was getting a brand new skill book. That was not what he was trying to do here. Skill generated, Breath of the World, artifact, grade crafting skill. When used during crafting, imbues items with the power of the World Dragon, increasing quality by 1 grade. When used on magical items or resources, improves quality by 1 grade. Hidden effect, when used by a World Dragon or World Dragon avatar, can be used to create sentient items, imbued with system functionality. If used on a non-sentient or nascent magical beast, this skill will trigger immediate evolution into a sentient Form 1 rank in potential higher than its base. Holy SHD. Elder Socrate breathed as he stared at the skill book. The laughter of the gods echoed through the clan, and many of the immortals fell to their knees in shock, intently focused on the skill book floating in the air in front of Karl. We totally should have saved points for a legendary skill if an artifact grade immortal skill was going to cause so much entertainment. Kara complained. Everyone gathered around to see the new skill, which Karl carefully plucked from the beam of light, which faded immediately. That skill, is that why you were hesitating? Elder Socrate asked. It was beautiful, isn't it? Now, Once I learn this skill book, I should be able to advance my class. Enzo, wait, please wait. I will pay to have a copy made if we can find a suitable inscriptionist for such a project and for the delay in your progress. Just don't use that book yet. The elder begged. Teasing Socrate is fun. Remy giggled, forgetting that she was draped around the elder's neck. What do you mean teasing? Karl cleared his throat. The skill that generated the book will let me try again when I get enough skill points. It's an excellent skill, but not my last chance to find the right skill to advance my class. So, I suppose that if you're truly serious about it, I could sell this artifact-grade immortal skill book to the clan. The other immortals struggled to wrap their heads around that idea. How much would something like that even sell for? It was the sort of secret skill that you built an entire clan around. Hell, most minor clans didn't even possess an artifact-grade secret skill. How did you put a value on that? We need to talk to the clan master and the council of elders. Elder Socrate realized. More elders pushed through the crowd, separating Karl from the crowd, just in case someone got ideas about claiming the book for themselves and making a run for it. Much to their relief, Karl put it in his inventory after a few seconds and set his hand on Dana's back to bring her with him wherever they were going. If not, Ray would likely insist that Dana got a chance to advance her class while Karl was busy, and he wanted to be there to see it. They would all get their advancements eventually. They just needed to take care of business first. If the clan leader is not convinced that it would be suitable for us to purchase the book, do you have any plans for what you might do with it? Elder Socrate asked, slightly concerned that they might be losing one of their prodigies so soon. If there is a Darklight host branch on this world, I will sell it to them. Putting it up on the guild market first is always my go-to option. If there isn't, then I will hold on to it until I find a suitable crafting specialized group with the resources to make good use of it. I doubt that will be necessary. Though, the new home is a merchant clan. And what is better suited to a merchant clan than a skill that lets you purchase mediocre quality goods and sell top quality? It might have some extreme requirements to actually use the skill, but for those who can, it's practically a license to print money. The alchemy elders suddenly realized that the skill had implications far beyond simply crafting better stuff. It could improve magical items and resources by 1 grade. The only remaining question was whether anyone could use it. The most precious skills were the hardest for anyone to learn. It kept them rare, but the alchemy elder thought it was more like a divine test to see who was willing to alter their whole life to get what they wanted. He wouldn't give up alchemy if the skill required a specific trade skill, or no trade skill at all. That just wasn't who he was. They made their way across town to an ancient pagoda-style building with an immaculately landscaped yard, and a half-dozen bunnies in bright white dresses rushing around, keeping everything in perfect order. Clan leader, we have an urgent matter that requires your attention. Elder Socrate called, then motioned for Karl to wait patiently. She's not always in the house, but she can hear when you call, one of the other elders whispered. Karl could see that the clan leader was in, or someone at the supreme rank was in the house. After a few minutes of silence, he saw the clan leader's soul shift, and the person vanished, only to reappear in front of them in the garden. I would assume that this is either a genuine emergency or something earth-shattering if you've pulled me away from my training, the surprisingly young-looking woman demanded. This young immortal has an artifact-grade skill book. He is willing to trade it to the clan, and we need your approval to make a change that large. You will understand when you see the book. Elder Socrate explained. Breath of the world. That is astounding. And you are willing to sell it to the clan, instead of making a name for yourself establishing a new clan of your own? She asked suspiciously. Karl nodded. I like money as much as the next guy, but I have learned a valuable lesson in the past. I am far too irresponsible to be left in charge of an entire clan. The clan leader laughed at the earnest expression on Karl's face, as well as the confirmation in Dana's grimace. So, you wish to get wealthy by proxy, setting up the clan with a secret skill that will let us gain an immeasurable edge in the sale of trade goods? What do you want in exchange? I am a reasonable man. I won't ask for more than a fair tithe. 10%. The clan leader stared at him, and Karl stared back. Right, Beastmaster, intimidation doesn't work. Not enough functional brain cells for self-protection instincts. I filled that section with cupcake recipes and runic languages. Karl agreed. The clan leader gave him a genuine smile, while the elders took a discreet step away from him. All right, come inside, and we can talk. Bring your wife, but leave the badger in her separate space. I will not have her loose in my house. Ray laughed as Kara grumbled. There was a lot of good stuff to examine in this house. Stuff she had never seen before. And that was precisely why the clan leader had banned her from the building. As a supreme ranked being, she didn't particularly concern herself with most things going on around the clan. That was for the elders. But this was her personal residence for many thousands of years, and she was not going to let the badger reorganize her belongings. She wasn't worried about theft. She could easily enough retrieve anything that Kara took, but having to put everything back in its proper spot would be a nightmare. They all sat on cushions around a low table. So, start from the beginning. I know that you were a branch leader for the Darklight host. You can't be entirely incapable of leading. So, why are you willing to sell such a valuable skill? Well, if she wasn't going to pretend that his reason was a good enough one, Karl knew that he was going to have to go into a bit more detail. I could keep it with me until I've grown to near peak immortal, then start a sect of my own. That is true, but it also made a huge spectacle when it appeared, so if I do nothing, everyone will know that I'm holding on to an artifact-grade skill, but very few will know what it does. That's not a great position to be in. Now, I can use the skill, so I'm not actually losing out by selling it in the short term. I have it, the clan will have it. You are supreme, I am a new immortal. If the skill becomes public and generates envy, it comes back to you, not me. You've got the power and the leadership position to keep things stable. So, I want to sell this to you, to better the clan. The clan leader sipped tea as she stared at Karl, bemused by the fact that her intimidating aura didn't affect him at all, even when it made the elders sweat. I can see your point. There is definitely more to your plan, I suspect. It would not surprise me if you can do that one more time, and you simply reserved it for later when you have the power to make better use of it. However, I will agree with your plan. You're right that it will be an amazing skill for the clan. Being able to upgrade our cargo before delivery will make some of our merchants fabulously rich. There are obviously risks that come with making the skill a hallmark of the clan, but I feel that I can handle what is going to come when news of the skill gets out. I will agree to your price. Karl smiled. That was everything that he had hoped for. Perfect. In that case, this is for you. Karl agreed, then handed over the artifact-grade skill book. The clan leader held the book for a second, and a slow smile spread across her face. I can see it already. This is going to be a game-changer for the new home clan. I can't wait to see the look on that old bastard from the Almixii sect's face when he finds out. I knew she was one of us. Karl laughed. All right. We have our agreement. You will get your cut from the markup, paid in clan credits. Dana gave the clan leader a disapproving look, but the woman just shrugged. What? I agreed to pay, and the clan credits can be used to buy anything that the clan has access to. They're as reliable as anything for currency, but only usable within the clan. Dana noted. An added bonus, indeed. It should help keep the Karl, as his title calls him, under control. Though I suppose the issue is mostly convincing him to keep his beast friends under control. Would you believe that Psycho from the PDA has sent me 43 messages about the lipstick that went missing from her pocket during the duel? Kara dropped it out of her space into the woman's hand. It's an awful color anyhow. I should have known you would have it. No, the Badger had it, didn't she? There is no word for property rights in Badger. You really do know about them. That's a bit surprising. Most people only know the stereotypes. Karl joked. The advantages of having been around for a long time, I suppose. Plus, I spent many years before I moved to the sect hunting in the monster wilderness of the Valalan League. Well, that explains why you understand magical beasts so well. I have found that the magical beasts of the immortal worlds are a particularly unique bunch. Karl agreed. The sect master laughed. Not all are like the Chaos Badger, with a clear mind and sentient thoughts. Honestly, I'm surprised that your phoenix was before he evolved. Most bird species are not known to be highly intelligent. Haha, she called you a dumbass. Wait here a moment while I call over the Council of Elders to inform them of this change. It's going to take a concerted effort to get enough copies of this skill made and distributed within a year that all the major merchant elders within the clan will have it. The clan leader announced. Karl cleared his throat. There is no guarantee that they will all be able to use it. I don't actually know what the limitations on the skill are. They're not listed when I look at the book. So, you might want to prepare them for a shift in the power structure as well, if only some of them can get all the resources that this skill will generate. The clan leader nodded. That is a good point. Not all of them have systems from the same world. So, they might not all be compatible. Those skill books are usually pretty universal. I don't see any restrictions on who can use this one, so it might be anyone. Or it might be that the restrictions are user by user. If your luck is terrible, it might just be you that can use it. In that case, you will have very little private time without someone wanting you to work. Karl chuckled. If that's the case, I will find a way to make a magical item to automate the process. Oh, wouldn't that be chaos? If you thought that the obelisk to bring back one of the lost functions of the system stones was causing an uproar among the members, you should try it and see what an artifact-grade skill placed on an item will do. Karl smiled, and the elders gave him nervous looks. You wouldn't do that, would you? Elder Socrate whispered. Oh, he would. And he would put it in your front lobby, just so that people don't come to his house looking for it. The clan leader joked. The alchemist made a protective gesture, while Remy laughed hysterically. The elder looked down at the tiny Naga. Being your friend really is a dangerous proposition, isn't it? We could put it behind the counter in the clan warehouse. That would be fun. Let them turn in the stuff, then upgrade it before they put it away. The other elder looked horrified. Do you know what that would do to the inventory system? Half our members would never be able to get the item they needed because it was upgraded after delivery. Then the elder paused. The badger is cheering right now, isn't she? She's currently arguing with her brother. She will laugh about the chance to mess with inventory at the warehouse later. The elder shook his head. We're getting off track. Even if it is actually possible to inscribe that sort of effect onto a physical item, it's better that such a thing never gets made. Many things in this world are not a matter of if we can, but if we should. Dana sighed. She could hear all the voices in Karl's head, and none of them understood the concept in the same way that she would expect a human to. In Ray's mind, the concept meant closer to, I can if I want to. Remy considered it to be more of an advisory warning that there might be consequences, such as angry volunteers. The sound of soft shoes announced the return of the staff, leading elders into the room. Clan leader Narissa, you said that there was urgent news? The first elder to enter demanded, looking annoyed to have been interrupted at whatever he was doing. Once everyone enters. I'm not explaining this 10 separate times. The elder didn't look happy, but he did take a seat at the low table and silently wait for the others. Another elder entered, saw the situation, and silently took a seat to wait for the others. Then smiled and turned to Elder Socrate. That is a particularly unique accessory you have gained. But you should likely know that she is brewing a fertility drug under your chin. Remy laughed and held up her small bundle of herbs. Close. The base ingredients for fertility drugs are the same, but this is actually a long-duration regeneration pill recipe. I'm just prepping the ingredients to go in the pressure cooker later. The elder laughed. The alchemist will cry if you call an alchemy cauldron and crucible a pressure cooker. But prepping in advance and not inside the cauldron? That's a unique technique. Remy nodded happily. We discovered that some of the ingredients are actually more effective if they're prepared before insertion. Other than this step, it's all the same as the others are doing. It wasn't. Not even close. But Elder Socrate wasn't going to out her as using runic alchemy to enhance her recipes until they had more ready to go to the market. Their new 10-hour bestial regeneration pills were going to be a huge seller at the alchemy hall. He was certain of it. However, the other elder wasn't wrong about them having an invigorating effect on users. A few minutes later, they had 20 elders gathered in the small room, and the clan leader nodded. This should be everyone who is here today. Let me introduce you to the Breath of the World, artifact-grade skill. Some of you are already familiar with it, as you may have seen Immortal Karl receive it earlier today. He has agreed to sell it to the clan, for use to increase our profitability, and as a hidden secret skill for our acolytes. I believe that it will help retain members within the clan, instead of going independent or joining other merchant clans after their training. Karl has agreed to take no initial payment, but instead agreed to royalties from profits made using the skill, payable in clan credits. The elders frowned at that news. Nobody liked paying out royalties, and with the description of that skill, there would be a lot of profits to be made. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much for watching. Did you enjoy this video? If you did, make sure to hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. And don't forget to subscribe and give this video a big thumbs up. Your support means the world to me, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Thank you.